'Twas the week after Christmas. Aaron Rodgers is still a prick. I know it's the Steelers, but what about the draft pick? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. So, Merry Christmas to everyone, Merry Christmas to every Browns fan across the land, whether that is in Cleveland, in Australia, in Antarctica, wherever you, the North Pole, wherever you are, in Santa's workshop. Merry Christmas. I hope everyone had a great Christmas. Hope everyone got spoilt with all of their Browns related gifts. Maybe this year is the year that people not too keen on getting a Browns jersey, but we've been buying Browns jerseys for worse seasons than this, so I'm sure it's still appreciated even when you get a Browns jersey, even when your team is not that great. But Christmas is over. Browns have one more game in 2025 before the new year comes in, and we obviously go into 2026. And this one game is against none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers, arch rivals Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't hate a team in any sport more than I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. You all feel the same. But unfortunately, our team has got us in a position where I think a lot of us might be rooting for the Steelers in this one when we look at how the draft position is going to go. That's going to sound like a very foreign thing to say to a lot of people. How on earth can you possibly root for the Steelers to beat the Browns? I can sit here and say that, but none of us are going to sit there in front of our TV and actually be able to stomach and do it. But a lot of people are going to be there. So we'll get into that, of course, as I have done the last few weeks. I'm not going to bore you guys with the X's and O's of this game. We are a 3-12 football team. There's only really three things to talk about with this game, and I will waste no time and jump straight into it. And first and foremost, everyone knows this is the biggest storyline from this game. Can Myles Garrett break the sack record? To be honest, that's all I really care about, other than obviously securing the draft pick, is Myles Garrett breaking the sack record. What a way to do it against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a way to do it against Aaron Rodgers. Pretty sure that Myles has never sacked Aaron Rodgers in his career. If he has, it definitely obviously hasn't been at the Steelers. It would have been at Green Bay, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't. So to get your first career sack on, a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, and that to be a record-breaking sack to break the NFL sack record, obviously, what a great moment that would be for Myles. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a very hard quarterback to sack. No one gets the ball out quicker than Aaron Rodgers. His time to throw is pretty much the quickest in the NFL. He's a hard quarterback to sack, but he is also 40 years old. So if you are able to get them into a situation where they do have to drop back, they're not able to get the ball out as quickly as possible, they're in a 3rd and long or something, then of course at 40 years old, if Myles can just get in the vicinity, then chances are you're able to get a sack, because Aaron Rodgers, even in his prime, is not getting away from Myles Garrett, let alone at 40 years old. Obviously, we all remember the sack last week with the Josh Allen half sack that Myles got, which wasn't actually a sack. It was just because Myles was the closest to him with Alex Wright when he gave himself up. Could we see another one of those today? Possibly. It would be quite funny to break the sack record the same way that Michael Strahan broke the sack record, with Brett Favre just falling and giving up the sack. So Aaron Rodgers, if you're listening, please, that would be nice. But that's the biggest. It's Myles Garrett breaking the sack record. It's an historic moment for Myles. It would be an historic moment for this franchise. Myles winning Defensive Player of the Year the other year, and we all kind of took it in, and then you kind of took a step back and realised, like, oh my God, this doesn't happen to our team. We don't really get these awards kind of thing. Our last MVP was Brian Snipes. So it's quite rare that the Browns are ever on these stuff. Defensive Player of the Years, MVPs, NFL records, passing yard records, sack record. The Browns are never ever in this stuff. So it's going to be an historic moment, not just for Miles, but for the franchise as well. Yes, it's been a disappointing season. Yes, we're probably going to win 3 games this year. But one thing you'll never be able to take away from this season is that Myles Garrett will now be etched into the history books as the all-time sack leader, the NFL sack record. As I said, it's a bad season, but there's a few things you can hang your hat on, and that is one of them. As someone that has sat here for years now and said how much I love Myles Garrett, how much I enjoy watching Myles Garrett play, this is going to be an amazing moment for me, for all Browns fans, if he is able to get the records in this game. Do it in 16 games. No one can then moan that he needed 17 games, unlike TJ Watt and Michael Strahan. So let's get the sack. Let's get it done. If he doesn't, I'm going to be nervous as hell going into that last game against the Bengals needing a sack. I just don't want to get to that. Let's just get it in this game. Let's go and break the sack record, Miles, against Aaron Rodgers. Or I'll tell you what would be cool. Obviously, the Steelers in this game. So, I mean, I'll take a step back. The Steelers might have been playing their backups in this game if the Ravens lost last night. That is why I waited to today to do this video after rushing home from my parents yesterday from the Christmas do. But obviously the Ravens won, so they still have a chance to win the division. So the Steelers will be playing their start. They will be trying really hard to win this game. But if they go up in this game, big, obviously, does Mason Rudolph come in? I think that would be probably the coolest way to do it would be break the sack record on Aaron Rodgers and then Mason Rudolph come in and then you just run up the record on Mason Rudolph and get a good 4 or 5 sacks on Mason Rudolph because I won't go into it, but we all know the history there. So Miles breaking the sack record, number one thing that I am looking out for, caring about today. That's the number one thing everyone should be looking out and caring for today. Come on, Miles, let's do it. Number 2 is obviously Shedeur Sanders, and obviously ties into number 3 as well. But I don't need to keep saying how much of a story this is. Obviously, you're either team Shedeur Sanders, you're either team not Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, there are people out there that just generally have something against Shedeur Sanders. Or you're kind of somewhere in the middle like me and you just want what's best for the team. And if that is the draft pick, that's the draft pick. If that's Shedeur Sanders, it's Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders hasn't shown me enough over the 4 games to say that we should 100% build around him going into next season. Not to say that he's played bad. He's shown me plenty of flashes. He's shown me more flashes than any other Browns quarterback this year. So as I've said in all of these games and in all of these reviews, it's not that this guy is playing bad. If anything, this guy is playing well for a 5th round pick. He showed you more flashes than most 5th round picks ever show you in such limited amount of starts. But unfortunately, it's just a very difficult situation for him, and it was a difficult situation for Dillon Gabriel as well. They've both been put in an unfair spot. They were basically told you got 4, 5, 6 games to go and prove that you're a franchise quarterback. Stop a team that has 2 first-round picks and probably will have a top 5 pick from drafting a quarterback. How many quarterbacks in NFL history are going to be able to come through in that situation? Very, very few. So I always want to preference that when talking about Shedeur because I do think he's been put in a tough spot. But I'm still going to talk, objectively about this and, 55% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. If his name wasn't Shedeur Sanders, I don't think anyone would be sat there saying, yep, that's something we can build around. So I need to see a lot more from Shedeur Sanders to feel comfortable going into next season with him as the starter. And even with that being said, as I said last week, I don't think there's anything he can do. I don't think there's anything he can do on the field in his performances that's going to stop this team from drafting a quarterback. I just don't think that's the case. The only actual way that he can do that is by winning the game. And obviously taking him out of the draft position for the quarterback. So, and even then they could still trade up. So there's just so many things going against Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, if coming through in under these kind of circumstances is an even bigger praise for you, because as I said, you've got a bad supporting cast around you. You've been put in a tough situation. So if you are able to come through that, it obviously shows you, your character and how you're kind of able to come through adversity. And as I said, he has shown flashes. He's shown plenty of flashes. He's completed more 40-yard passes than all the Browns QBs, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel combined this year. Even Corey Bojorquez, who's now thrown a pass this year after last week's hilariously tanked field goal. That I don't even think we can argue we're not tanking after that one. But obviously, so that's where I'm at with Shedeur. I don't think there's anything he can do, because it's just an unfair spot. He could go throw 500 yards today. If they don't win the game and they finish with a top 2 pick, they're probably going to take a quarterback. That's just how it is. But obviously, you still want to see this. He's still the Browns quarterback, regardless. Even if you're someone that doesn't want, you've decided, no, I don't want Shedeur next season. He's still the Browns quarterback. You should still be rooting for the guy to play well, regardless of what you want the result to be. I don't want any Browns player to go out there and play bad. I'm always rooting for whoever's out there. So, as I said, tough spot for Shedeur. Can he continue to show flashes? Can he show enough to make people and make this front office and this coaching staff, which probably won't be here next year anyway, feel comfortable about going with him next year? I doubt it, but let's wait and see. And then finally, because I don't want to make this one too long, obviously it's the draft position, and people are getting bored of this. I get it, but that's where we're at. We are 3-12. We currently own the 3rd overall pick. All things go as we expect them to go today, and the Browns will occupy the number 2 overall pick going into Week 18 with a chance to own the 1st overall pick. We do have the second best chances of owning the 1st overall pick according to the ESPN analytical model, with the Raiders being number 1. Browns lose this game. Obviously, the Raiders play the Giants today. Tonight, actually. So thankfully, it's actually a little bit after the Browns game. So I'll get to see. We'll know the Browns result, and then obviously we'll get to see that Raiders-Giants game. But even with a tie, the Browns will jump one of those teams. If that's do they jump one of the teams with a tie? I'm pretty sure they do. But either way, let's not even jinx it. It's not going to be a tie. One of those teams is going to win. Hopefully it's the Giants, I think, because if the Giants win, obviously we jump the Giants, and then I feel better about the Raiders potentially beating a Chiefs team that has just completely railed it in and is ready for Cancun, than I do the Giants winning their last game, who I can't remember who it's against now, but it's a tougher game than obviously that Chiefs game would be. So probably want the Giants win, but at the end of the day, the Browns, if they lose this game, will have a number 2, will own the number 2 overall pick by the end of the day. And that is essentially what it comes down to. We are currently living in upside down world. Obviously, Stranger Things coming out. Great reference, Ollie. Cheers, guys. But no, all seriousness, it does feel like we are living in an upside down world right now, because we got Ravens fans are going to be cheering for the Cleveland Browns. Steelers fans are going to be nervous about playing the Cleveland Browns. How often are they nervous about playing the Cleveland Browns? And then you've got Browns fans that are probably going to be rooting for the Steelers. So everything is backwards. Everything is twisted. This is the NFL, unfortunately. It gets messy. It's not like football, European soccer, where it's just, it's as simple as just you want that team to win the game because you don't get rewarded for losing. But the NFL, you get rewarded for losing. People might not like it, but as I've said, I'm not a tank person in terms of going into the season. I don't think you should ever go into week 1 with the idea of let's lose as many games as we can this year. That is detrimental to building a winning culture, and I think that can be damaging to a team. But with all of that being said, as I've always said, and I've remained consistent on this, if you are a 2-13 football team, if you're a team that is, your season is completely over, you have no chance. Your best case scenario is getting to 4 or 5 wins. What is the point winning these meaningless games? You might as well go out there and improve your draft position. That's the way that the NFL set up their league. You might as well take advantage of that. That is what the Cleveland Browns are going to do. I know people don't like hearing it. Don't get me wrong. The players Players don't tank. Players, when they go out there, they're not tanking. They're not trying to lose. That is a very dangerous thing to do, because if you're not going out there giving full effort in an NFL game, you're going to get yourself hurt. So never, ever, ever should an NFL player go out there with the intention to lose. That's not the case. Teams don't tell their players in the locker room, right, let's go and lose this game. But what they do is teams make moves that aren't exactly conducive to winning. And obviously this week, the Browns' version of that is Wyatt Teller, questionable. Dylan Sampson, questionable. Dylan Gabriel, obviously questionable with the thing, so Bailey Zappi has been elevated for this game. And then Harold Fanning has just suddenly appeared on the injury report this week. He is now questionable, along with David Njoku, who is out. That's how organisations make moves that aren't exactly conducive to winning. As I said, the Browns aren't trying to win this game, but I say unfortunately, but when push comes to shove, when that whistle goes, when you're between those hash marks, you can't have any control over whether you win that game or not. Your team is going to go and try and win the game. But as I said, the Browns are obviously moving as a team that is not exactly interested in winning. And, everyone's clowning the Raiders and the Giants right now. Obviously, the Raiders shutting down Crosby and everything and all the stuff that's going. I mean, Bowers has been put on IR, and they're basically having a tank off to see who can lose that game. And the whole media, everyone on Twitter and social media, everyone's clowning them. Meanwhile, the Browns are just moving in silence, and we're kind of, we're tanking, but no one's realizing it. But the Browns are probably going to be pulling out similar stuff to what the Raiders and Giants are over these next 2 games, because we're the 3 teams that are essentially in that shot for that first overall pick. As I said, neither team benefits from winning any of their remaining games. So we're going to see some funny stuff over the next 2 weeks between the Browns, Raiders and Giants as they all compete to tank and get that first overall pick. And, the Ravens are in the driving seat. But one thing I will say, I said it after the Titans game, I said it after the Jets game. If there is one thing that you cannot beat the Cleveland Browns at, that is tanking. So if it comes down to it, if your team tank, you should feel pretty confident, because I'm pretty sure this team is able to pull it out the bag. But that's my thoughts on this game. Obviously, as I said, it's a fucked up situation. I never, ever in my life want to root for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not just root for the Pittsburgh Steelers to win a game, but they're going to win the fucking division by winning this game. So everything's fucked. It's the upside down world. I don't like it. Let's just get through these next 2 weeks, take the fucking losses on the chin, and then we can go forward with a first or a second overall pick, and we can deal with the pain then. But at least the pain will feel a little bit better because we've got a first or second overall pick. It's just not a great situation to be in, but that's the NFL. That's where we're at. Let's just hope that Miles can break the sack records. Let's hope that Carson Schlesinger can continue his Rookie of the Year campaign. I think he's pretty much summed it up now. But he is also, I think, around 10 tackles away from breaking the Browns' tackle record, not just rookie record, tackle record, which I think DeQuell Jackson owns. He's around 10 tackles away from breaking that. So obviously another record that could be broken today. Harold Fanning broke the record last week for most receptions by a rookie. So, it's been a bad year. It's accumulated in us. Probably sat here rooting for the fucking Steelers to win a game that's going to win them the division just because it gives us a fucking better pick. But if Myles Garrett breaks the sack record, our rookies carry on breaking records and look as good as they do, we have a top 2 pick in April, guys. I think it'll be somewhat worth it. I think we'll be sat there going, okay, I can take it a little bit better than I did when I had to sit there and pretend like I didn't want the Steelers to actually win this game because obviously the Browns draft pick. But if you're someone that can't do that, completely understand. I say here, I can sit here and talk about it all I want. Every time I sit in front of that TV and I see that black and yellow jersey, I can't root for them to win. So I can sit here and say that, but I'm sure once the game starts, I won't be doing it. But let me know your thoughts on this game, guys. Are you team tank at this point? Are you fuck the draft pick, let's just go beat the Steelers? Let me know your thoughts on this game. But that would do it for me today. If you do enjoy my content, please drop this video a like, hit that subscribe button. It's free, but it really, really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can follow and interact with me on social media. As I always say, I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and even if that means I only get to talk to one fan a day, I'm happy because it means I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Enjoy this game as much as you can. Enjoy probably wanting your team to lose against your arch nemesis. As I said, guys, we're in the upside down world. It's all fucked, but hopefully in the long term, it's worth it. But, and again, guys, thank you for watching, and most importantly, go Browns. And go Myles Garrett.